Yes, yes, yes. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Let me put these on. No wonder why I can't hear. Oh, why is my music not playing? Hold up, hold up. Of course, we gotta reset this. I don't know why it does this, where we gotta reset it. Shout out to Anthony's in the building. Shout out to Skeeg. Hold on, why are the tunes not playing? There we go. There we go. There we go. Grand Rising. Hopefully everybody's having an amazing start to the day. Your boy is greasy. All that vitamin E. Put all that vitamin E oil on my face, man. So we glistening, baby. But that means you healthy. That means you healthy. That means you healthy. Grand Rising to all. Grand Rising to all. Please, as you're joining, please make sure that you like, subscribe if you haven't already. But make sure you hit that like button. Super violate. I'm like Hassan Campbell, man. How does Hassan Campbell start off his show, Ski? He says, I got 2 rules. Take your shoes off when you come into the show, and super violate that like button. So make sure that you're pressing that like button. We got an interesting show for y'all today. Forget all the music. We got an interesting show for y'all today. Matter of fact, we're going to start off the show today a little differently. As you can see, I got I don't even know if you peeped. I got the incense burning in the background. Shout out to Unc in the building. The reason why I got the incense burning in the background is just because I felt like we need like a spiritual cleanse. I really feel that. We need a spiritual cleanse. Matter of fact, hold up. Forget the incense. Hold on. One second. We're going to burn some sage, man. I feel like it's necessary. We're going to burn some sage, man. Forget the incense. We really need this spiritual cleanse. So instead of what we typically do at the end of the show, we're going to make sure that we start off the show similar to how we end it, but just seeking some clarity as we go into the show. And then, of course, we'll finish it off, because I just look around and some of the things that we're going to discuss and some of the things that we have been discussing are pretty heavy. They've been pretty heavy. And I had a conversation with somebody close to me over the weekend about a lot of these like heavy discussions, especially when they're concerning religion. And it just all makes you think, is peace possible? Are we too far gone? Are we too manipulated and indoctrinated to be divided and conquered to the point where we actually think that this is serving us rather than serving the greater powers, the few people that put this stuff together that said, hey, yo, this is how we can organize them and get them to follow the rules. You know, they'll follow laws, but if we have something else that is ordained to God, connected to God, then we'll be able to control them even more. And we'll be able to divide them even more, be able to give reasons for why we can do certain things and why we can commit certain atrocities, but everybody will go along, you know, with the get along. So I was having all these thoughts, and I think even the conversation that I had with my big bro, the conclusion of it was, or, you know, where we got to was, just got to keep doing the work, and that the main thing that we got to provide is balance. That's the hardest thing to do. When you think about getting on anything, like getting on a skateboard, getting on like the seesaw, or anything in life, the hardest thing to do is balance. You know, oh, I'm just going to drink a little bit, or I'm just going to have a little bit of fun. I'm just going to spend a little bit of money when I go to the hardest thing to do is balance. It's much easier to just pick a side and just roll with it. And that's the battle that we're in. And when it comes to religion, when it comes to spirituality, let's say specifically religion, there's no balance. It is impossible to balance. This is the way we see it. It was written 3,000 years ago, or however many years ago. And that's what we're locked in on, and we're not budging. Unless it's one of our pastors that want to interpret it a different way that's favorable for them, in my opinion. So we're going to burn a little sage, and what we'll do is we're just going to have 30 seconds. We're not even going to do a full 45 seconds, but 30 seconds just going into the show where we're just seeking some clarity, seeking balance, and just making sure that when we discuss a lot of these topics, that we're understanding, like, what is the overall goal? Like, we're not just criticizing if we end up doing it. I don't even think it's criticizing religion. I want to be very clear. I don't think it's criticizing anybody's spirituality, but it's just, and it is criticizing, but it's not, it's a constructive criticism. It's us trying to get to a goal and evaluating how we can best get to that overall goal. And once again, what do we say at the end of every show? You got to determine what's in your bag. Everybody has different goals. And you realize this very quickly when you talk to people about their spirituality, about their religion, about anything perhaps in their life. Everybody has different goals. Everybody's goal is not for humanity to come together and live in peace and harmony. Everybody's goal is not that. And it's clear. Some people's goals are just like, yo, I don't care about humanity. I'm just here to make sure that my family and I are good. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying that everybody has different goals. So our goals are going to dictate how we move in life. Certain people will be concerned with certain things that have bigger goals or different goals that other people will just look at like, I'm not even thinking about that. So let's just do 30 seconds. We're just seeking clarity. 30 seconds. We're going to, just clear our minds. We're just going to clear our minds 30 seconds. If you're in a safe place, close your eyes. We're just starting off with a cleanse, starting off the weekend with a nice spiritual, or the week, I should say, with a spiritual reset. All right. So I'm going to close my eyes. Hopefully I don't burn myself, and we'll go from there. So let me get 30 seconds. Ready? Begin. Remember, every exhale, getting rid of that negative energy. All right. All right. Let me put this up. Let me lock that door because I had the door open because of this and the incense. See, that's the thing. When I do the show facing this way, I can't see who's behind me, especially when we have another video up. So I always get nervous. I start talking about certain topics and I'm like, whoa, somebody coming to get me. So that door is always locked. So don't try it. Yeah, don't try it. You'll make me nervous. That's not good. All right. So what are we talking about today? We're going to talk about, we got a couple videos on war crimes. And the whole concept of war crimes. We're going to talk about Christian nationalism. We have an interesting conversation to break down between a mother and confronting a pastor that was on the radio station. Pretty interesting. We may touch on, we got a lot of videos. We got a couple different videos from Tucker Carlson that highlight something that we discussed before as far as with George Washington and getting involved in foreign affairs and how a lot of these endless wars, they don't just corrupt the government, but they end up corrupting everybody else involved. It's like racism. It doesn't pick and choose. It's in the air. It impacts everybody in different ways. So that's the same thing with a lot of these wars and how we see them and how it shifts our mindset to justify certain things and to see certain things that when you take a step back, it's like, how is this even possible? How is this even possible? So let's start off actually with this war crimes video. And I want to ask y'all a question when it comes to this concept of war crimes. Like I was sitting here yesterday and I'm thinking, and I even text my big bro Pete, and I'm like, the concept of war crimes, like shouldn't war just be the crime? Like if you can have certain rules that dictate how people kill each other and how people destroy each other's countries, can't you just have a rule that says, hey, we have to solve this without war, that no country can go to war? And the question comes up where it's like, well, what if some country does go to war? Okay. But at least don't you go into it with a certain standard, like, hey, this is the standard. We're not allowed to have war. Because it's the same thing as that, okay, if you give an inch, people take a mile, right? Well, if you give a half inch, I guess maybe they'll take a half a mile. You know, at least it'll put us in the right mindset, or at least, like I said, set the right standard to where when you have something called war crimes, it just doesn't even make any sense. Why would war not be illegal? And it takes me back to what, you know, Queez always says, which is follow the money. But without getting too far into that, just from a conceptual standpoint, think about it. Think about it. Why would war be legal? It doesn't even make sense. It's to the point where it's like, oh, Iran's going to tell us, hey, Trump, we're going to bomb such and such at this time. You know, make sure your people are out. Well, couldn't we have just figured that out and not bombed it? Oh, we're going to bomb you know, the nuclear site here. Well, maybe none of us should have nuclear weapons. Maybe you shouldn't be allowed to have nuclear weapons because war is not allowed. So then we don't have to worry about these type of things. But because it's one of the most profitable industries, and because the people in power are so obsessed and never want to risk not having a certain amount of leverage, what it does is it makes everybody else follow suit and say, well, if they got this type of gun, I got to have this type of gun. Or they got a bigger gun, we got to have a bigger gun. They're going to the moon, we got to go to the moon. It's all just based on, like, people are just going to follow suit no matter what we do. So just from that mindset, I don't know. What do y'all think about the whole war crimes as far as, like, should the crime be war? Should the crime be war? Let's get into this video on war crimes. Ooh, did I mess this up? Hold on 1 second. All right, there we go. Let me share this. I'm kind of debating whether I want to go a different direction and just play a different video. I'll be totally honest. We'll watch a couple minutes of this. Because people may not even understand what war crimes are. We'll watch a couple minutes of this, but then I want to get into the other stuff. The other stuff's a little bit more interesting, but I think this is just a question that needs to be asked to kind of put us in the right perspective.
A lot of people are talking about war crimes, but what actually is a war crime? How difficult is it to punish a war criminal? And are war crimes ever justified? That last question is something that a lot of people are arguing at the moment, but it's also the easiest one to answer, so let's get it out of the way quickly.
War crimes are never justifiable, and answering war crimes with more war crimes is completely unacceptable.
It doesn't matter who started the war. It doesn't matter who was right or wrong in starting the war. It doesn't matter that one party may have done something horrible and the other party thinks that they're justified. There is no justification.
Okay, so with that sorted, let's break the rest of this down into 4 different parts. Who decides what a war crime is? What are the different types of war crimes? How is evidence collected? And how are war criminals brought to justice? The concept of the rules of war goes back a long time, but only recently did most of the world agree on how wars should be conducted. This is known as international humanitarian law. And
if you had to, real quick, sorry. The fact that countries got together and decided the rules on how we can go to war, the rules on how we can kill each other, the rules on how our armies and the people that got together, those probably were the people that would never actually step foot and risk their lives in actually going to war. Don't y'all think that that's kind of insane? Like, have we been so manipulated to the point where we just go along with whatever it is that people in nice suits and that have power and we call them our politicians or call them successful business people, where we just agree with everything that they say? If people can come together and sit down, just like what Unc just said, hold on, you would think that you would think a civilized people would actually have the concept wrapped down, but it's not so. But it's not so play far from civilized. It's not. We're not that civilized. How can we come together? If we can come together and figure out war crimes and agree on that, why couldn't we just agree on the fact that we don't need wars? And it's because a lot of these people that we follow, a lot of the people that are the elites, a lot of the people that established or contributed, and I got to say it, towards formulating these man-made religions, they did not care about the people following them. We give people a whole bunch of credit when we say like, oh, these people set these rules up in order to benefit us. No, they did it in order to benefit them. All of these things, there's no way that you have, just think about it. People would set up, don't you think there's a reason why religious organizations never challenge the fact that with Manifest Destiny and the document of discovery, where you can go and conquer any land if they're not already worshiping the same God and religion that you are? Like, don't you think that from a spiritual standpoint, that if people really cared about humanity, they would have stepped in and stopped that and nipped it in the bud at the jump? Don't you think that that would be a topic that is discussed? Don't you think that religious leaders would be the ones that are leading this charge, saying like, why are we even having these wars, calling them out? Instead, we live in a society where we got Christian pastors, certain people saying that supporting what's going on with Israel and Palestine because God said in the Bible, be good to Israel, apparently. We have a warped way of looking at things. And I realize that we are so selfish. Most of us are so selfish. And I'll give you some examples where you ever been in a situation where you ask God to help you get through, like help you get through this. I'll give you an example. I don't know if I want to use a situation where you put yourself in a very bad position and you just say, God, I'll never do this again. I promise. Just make this situation all right, please. And I promise you I'll never do this again. Yes. But obviously all the situations are not like that. It could be a sickness. Let's say you go through a sickness where you're saying, or somebody in your family's sick and you say, God, please. And you pray to God. And then let's say that it ends up in a positive way. Now, if it ends up in a negative way, we don't attribute and hold God accountable to that. We'll sit here and justify it and say, we'll either say that was the devil, or we'll say that, hey, there's a reason for everything. We'll say like, hey, there's a reason for whatever people will say. But if there's a positive outcome where somebody's life is saved, now we attribute that being saved to God. We don't attribute it to anything else. We don't attribute, like I said, if it goes wrong, we don't give God the responsibility. We don't hold God accountable for it. But when it goes right, we attribute everything to God. So therefore, it's almost like a selfishness as far as, well, God has done this for me through this religion. And it's really, and this is why you got to separate the two, because we look at religion as associated, as connected directly with God. And it's completely two different things. In a lot of ways, they're polar opposites. Something that is man-made for control rather than God, which is supposed to represent our connection to each other, us living in harmony. In a lot of ways, they're polarizing opposites. There's a reason why, when you look back at all of these wars that have been fought in the past, how different lands have been conquered. They've been conquered in the name of God. How they've justified slavery. It's been justified in the name of religion. Apologies. they tried to justify it in the name of God, but in reality, it was justified in the name of religion. But because we are such selfish human beings, because we like, oh, well, grandma and granddad, they were in the church and my favorite holidays were Christmas. So therefore, religion is like one of the only things that you don't look at the cons of it, that you're not able to properly evaluate it and say like, hey, is this benefiting humanity? Overall, if I typed into ChatGPT, have the results of religion, man-made religion, benefited humanity overall? Or have they pushed us more towards what God would deem as evil and what people would deem as the devil? Is it just here to justify and to make sense of the evil things in the world that have to be done so the powerful people can stay in power? I'm just asking. It's a very selfish nature, in my opinion, that won't allow people to even think about the fact that it's like, hey, hold on. You know, this is man-made on one end, but going back to the title of the show, are you willing to give up your religion for God? Would you be willing to give up your religion for God? And it's such a, we've been conditioned to think about religion on such a surface level, in my opinion, where we don't actually dive into what the entire purpose of it is. It to just serve you and your family, or is it to serve humanity? Because those are completely different things. Is it to just serve you and your people, or is it to serve humanity? And it's and the reason why I say a lot of this stuff is selfish, I'll give you, maybe this will make it make sense as far as why I'm saying it's selfish. Let me hide this for a second. It's easy for a lot of us, and maybe this is the reason why a lot of the people that I believe are strong Christians, maybe this is one of the reasons why some of them, and I'm just thinking about on the show, the conversations that we've had, justify what Israel's doing to Palestine. This is why you have a lot of Christians that justify, let me be even clearer, a genocide happening on Palestinians. Perhaps one of the reasons why you justify it is because where we're sitting in America, we're only sitting in this comfort of this cabana that I get to call a studio because we committed a genocide on the indigenous people who were here. So it's very hard for maybe people to call out what's going on in Israel, especially when you realize that the only reason why we have America and what happened throughout the Americas, North and South America, the Caribbeans, is because genocides were committed. But these are some of the most religious people. If that doesn't show that religion has no connection to God, then I don't know what will. And stop trying to think about it. I can see y'all say, well, I don't look at it like that. Well, it's not about you, right? It's not about you. Religion has nothing. It's not an individual personalized thing. It's about what the overall principle of it has done to everybody else. You don't separate and say, well, that one Nazi guy, he was a good guy. Well, actually, there were certain attributes of, Hitler that, he was actually a cool guy. And we don't do that, right? So why, when it comes to justifying other things, we actually do that? How come we can't look at all the evil? Like, we can look at Hitler and see the evil that he's done, but we can't look at all the evil that was done in our benefit. And this is when I talk about the selfish nature of a lot of these religious people. Y'all are selfish. A lot of y'all, not saying everybody is, not saying that everybody's doing it for the same reasons, but it is a selfish mindset. When you take a step back, if you're even willing to take a step back, this is selfish. And Unc wrote earlier that you have to criticize to a certain point. I forget I think, let me find this comment. To build on the divine, one needs to criticize the things that separate you from success, whether that be a religion, but too many people worship the devil and don't understand. Who are you really worshiping? Who are you really worshiping? Oh, you think because there's a building and it's a church and somebody dresses up as a pastor and because they're holding their Bible that you're doing it for your religion. Matter of fact, you think you're doing it for God. Let's get back to the video.
It's made up of a patchwork of different treaties and conventions, like the Geneva Conventions, which were created after World War II. Because international humanitarian law is pulling from a number of different sources, not all countries agree on every single law within it. They may recognize one convention but not another, and this is where things start to get a little bit complicated. But pretty much every country recognizes the core idea that it's not about stopping the killing of enemy fighters. It's about trying to minimize suffering and protect people that aren't involved in the fighting, like civilians or soldiers that have surrendered.
It's not to minimize casualties amongst like the armies. This is insane. We are in 2025. You know, this is what happens when you don't update your religion. This is what happens when you rely on religions that were here from 3,000 years ago. This is what happens when you're Moses, like we discussed the other day, justifying how you can treat your slavery when instead of you being a true prophet and advancing humanity, but instead of doing that, you're adjusting to the days and times that you live in. You're being a victim of the days and times that you live in. You're not adjusting. What we're trying to do is adjust. We're trying to provide a solution and adjust. And when I say we, I mean people that are just trying to establish some world peace and harmony. That's the goal. But when you rely on old principles and when you are a victim to your current society, then it's very hard, I should say. I got to change that concept that I was saying, adjusting to the day and time. It's very hard to adjust. It's very hard to say, hey, we need an updated solution. This is an outdated concept. Going to war? Like, we can offer things like as wild as allowing boys to compete in women's sports, but we're not intelligent enough to like maybe that just, I mean, I'm just saying as far as offering radical solutions, right? We can throw a radical solution like that out there, but we can't throw something out there like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be killing each other in war. Maybe there's another way that we can do this. And it's because we rely on outdated principles of how to live. And it's because most of us, we're living our lives off of something that we don't even read, something that we don't even go through. Most people aren't even aware of what's in the Bible. And when you bring up certain things that don't align with what their pastor taught them, what do they say? Oh, well, that's in the Old Testament. Well, why is it in your book? Cut it out, just like you cut out a whole bunch of other things that were in the book.
So, what are the different types of war crimes? When answering this question, human rights groups often point to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, which breaks things down into 3 different categories. You've got war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. There's a bit of overlap between the 3 things, but they're largely considered to be separate. When it comes to war crimes, and this may seem obvious, it's when you break the rules of war during an armed conflict. And there are a lot of different crimes that fall under this category, like killing civilians, torture, and taking hostages. But it can also cover things like denying medical care, or attacking historical monuments, or forcing people to leave their homes.
Are we that ignorant to think that if you're going to war trying to kill somebody, that people are going to have the spiritual principles to say, oh, well, this same person whose head I was just trying to blow off, now that when I have them and who's trying to blow my head off, now when I have them captured, I'm not going to torture them. This is stupid. And we sit back and accept it because things never hit our shores. My Pete was telling me the other day, he's like, I should actually play this video. When we post it, I'll play it. I don't think they posted it, but when you think about, there's no threat to Americans right now. We don't feel a real threat. All these wars are fought like over there. There's no real threat to us. But let stuff start happening in America. Forget sending our troops somewhere else, because people don't care about troops. Let's just be honest. But let's stuff start coming here. Let some of these things that are going on in some of these other countries start threatening lives here. And then maybe people will change their tune, because right now people don't care about war because we're not the ones dying. We're not risking our lives. We'll just justify it by saying, it's just those Muslims over there. They're extreme anyway. It's Hamas. They're a terrorist group. Oh, I know that all of the Palestinians aren't terrorists, but you know, they apparently they voted for them. You know, they voted for them. So, you know, let's excuse the fact that, you know, Netanyahu and indirectly or directly, however you want to look at it, used to support them, you know, Hamas. You know, let's forget about the fact that a lot of the people that we've gone to war, whether it's Saddam Hussein or a lot of these other people, the Bin Ladens, or that they had relationships with a lot of the powerful leaders in America. Let's excuse all that. Doesn't matter. Let's just kill them. This is insane to think that people are going to actually follow these principles when you're telling them at the same time to go to war. Let me give you an example. Like, I cannot understand. I've never gone to war. I cannot understand or appreciate the mindset that you would have to have going into an actual war, like what you would have to tap into. On a scale, it's a totally different universe, and what I'm getting ready to do, I feel like you should never do, but I'm going to do it. And maybe I shouldn't use football. Well, I'm going to use it to kind of prove something, if I can. Bear with me. When you go into a football game, especially the higher the level that you're at, and especially in college when you really can't stand, I would say, the other teams that you're going against, you tap into a different emotion. Like, you tap into something different. It's just something that clicks in you. And I would imagine, and let's say, like, if you do that in football, which is like just a silly game where the most you can do, you know, you're hitting people, you got on armor, I guess you would call it. You got on equipment and stuff. Take it to like a UFC fight. Think about it like a UFC fight. Imagine the mentality that you have to tap into in order to like brawl with somebody. Just imagine that. Imagine the mentality that you would have if somebody tried to harm you in an alley, or somebody tried to, late night, you're walking down the street. Imagine the mindset that you would have to tap into because you feel like your life is on the line. Now imagine you actually, not spur of the moment, but you deciding, oh, I'm going to war, we're in a war. What's the mindset that I have to tap into in order to justify killing this other group of people? Imagine the mindset that you have to have when you're picking people off that are trying to get food, but you're justifying it because, oh, well, they're rushing the gates, they're doing. So now you're picking starving children off, shooting them. Imagine the mindset, the indoctrination that has to go into it, that the programming that has to go in it. Now, do you think these same people are able to just flip the switch? Then when they get a hostage, just treat them with dignity and respect?
And it's not just what you do during a conflict, but also how you conduct yourself when you're actually fighting. That can mean using child soldiers or using civilians as human shields. For example, firing missiles from inside a crowded school because your enemy can't retaliate without putting civilians at risk. There's also something called collective punishment, which is punishing a group of people that may not be involved in the conflict, just because you suspect that some of the people living there might be enemy soldiers. And then there's the use of certain weapons. They may be considered inhumane because they cause unnecessary suffering, or it could be because they're indiscriminate, so not targeted and likely to cause collateral damage and harm civilians. A lot of these crimes may seem pretty straightforward, but where things start to get a bit murky is when proportionality comes into it.
In international humanitarian law, there is an acceptance that there will be some civilian losses, but it's the anticipated military advantage has to outweigh that.
Basically, if your military goal is considered important enough and you take steps to minimize collateral damage by giving warnings beforehand or using targeted attacks, civilians can die without it being considered a war crime. The next category covers crimes against humanity, which are a step up from war crimes, at least in terms of scale.
It has to be committed as part of a widespread or systematic attack, and it needs to be directed against any civilian populations.
A war crime can be the death of just one person, whereas crimes against humanity are often organised campaigns with the aim of killing or torturing or displacing a large group of civilians over a period of time. Another big difference is that crimes against humanity don't need to take place during a conflict. Think apartheid in South Africa, or the way that Joseph Stalin used to make his political opponents disappear in the Soviet Union. The final category is genocide. What separates genocide from crimes against humanity is that the end goal needs to be the complete destruction of an entire group of people. For example, during the Holocaust, in which 6 million Jews were killed, the goal of the Nazis was to exterminate the Jewish people completely. Genocide also doesn't technically have to involve killing. It could take the form of trying to starve a group of people, or taking away their children. Now, when it comes to proving war crimes, human rights groups play a big role in the collection of evidence.
We spend thousands of hours researching, monitoring, and documenting human rights abuses in an effort to put perpetrators to justice.
That can involve interviewing witnesses and survivors, working with local organisations and journalists, and going through huge amounts of photos and videos to try to reconstruct events.
When you're building a case, you're not relying on one piece of evidence, you're relying on a patchwork of information that can piece it together and also be corroborated.
There are plenty of challenges that come with collecting evidence, like needing to work in active war zones, going through huge amounts of data, and then having to verify everything.
Sometimes there's just too much, there's so much coming out.
So, once all of the evidence is collected, what happens next? Human rights groups create detailed reports and pass them on to international bodies or governments that might follow it up with another investigation. Or they might be passed on to groups that will then use that evidence to build a legal case. Some human rights groups, like Fortify Rights, even go as far as pursuing legal cases themselves. Actually prosecuting war criminals in court, however, is challenging for a number of reasons. Proving that a war crime has simply taken place can be straightforward, but actually linking it to an individual, especially if there's someone high-ranking that wasn't directly involved on the ground, can be very tough. And it's those high-ranking officials that are often the ones that end up in court, because
This is goofy. This is goofy, man. I just, when we finish this video, I want to go over the 10 Commandments. When we finish this video, I want to go over the 10 Commandments because nothing even matters anymore. Like, nobody actually lives and abides by the religion that they say they're a part of. Nobody even, like, this is, how did we get to a point where we could just be completely misled by this, where we could be so heartless and so empty spiritually that we don't just call this all out as just BS, all this war stuff? How did we get here?
of how expensive and time-consuming these types of cases are. It can also be quite difficult to prove the more extreme acts because you also need to prove intent. And even before you get to any of these issues, there's the problem of actually finding a court that will take your case. It's often not possible to go to court in the country where the crime was committed, because the country may still be at war, or it may be the government that has committed the crime.
Often you find that they obviously won't investigate themselves.
There are international tribunals and courts like the International Criminal Court, but its powers are limited because not every country recognises its authority. For example, Russian President Vladimir Putin has an arrest warrant out for war crimes with the ICC. But as long as he avoids countries that recognise the ICC, he likely won't have to face trial. Another option are the domestic courts of countries that have universal jurisdiction. An example of this happened in France in 2014, when it convicted Pascal Simbakangwa for his role in the Rwandan genocide. The bottom line is that actual war crime convictions aren't all that common. But that doesn't mean that the work of human rights groups goes to waste. The detailed reports and evidence that human rights groups put together can lead to international pressure and travel bans on war criminals. Early reporting on war crimes can also sometimes help to stop conflicts from escalating, and it can lead to support and assistance for victims of war crimes, and make sure that the crimes committed against them aren't forgotten.
Let me get rid of this real quickly. I want to show y'all this. Look at this 10 Commandments. X wrote, "Why do you talk about sin? Were you a virgin before marriage?" I don't know. Let me just preface it with, I'm not Christian, so I don't abide by your rules. Just to, you get what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm not sure that question holds much weight when it comes to me. U.S. also doesn't recognize ICC. Hold on. Human rights groups don't care about Iran and Palestine, murder, raping. I don't think that the human rights care. Let's look at this right here. Hold on. Let me zoom in on this if I can. Let me zoom in right on this. So for all the people that are defending, let's say you're Christian or Jewish, and you're defending your religion, what about this? Does this not matter? Serious question. Does this not matter? Let's go over these. You shall have no other gods before me. You know what this comes across as? It comes across as something that man made because they're insecure in you waking up and realizing that, oh, wait, this is man-made. This isn't really God. This is just religion. That's what it really comes across to me as. You shall have no other gods before me. Like, would God even have to say that? Just asking you, would God, like God, not big G God, not your pastor, not whatever prophet, whatever, would big God, the creator, would the creator ever have to lower himself to say, you shall have no other gods before me? Would the most powerful being ever have to even say something like that? Number two, or I guess not number, you shall make no idols. Politics, religious leaders, entertainers, we all idolize them. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. So I can't say the Lord's name in vain, but I can commit a genocide in the Lord's name. I can justify slavery in the Lord's name because I'm just adjusting to the days and times, right? Or I'm just accepting the days and times that I live in. The first slave ship, that Jesus Lubbock, look it up. The document of discovery, manifest destiny, all of these things, they were justifying taking other people's land and committing genocides simply because they didn't believe in the same quote unquote religion or God, I guess they would say. So I can't say God's name in vain, the Lord's name in vain, but I can commit all these other atrocities. I can sit down with a bunch of other people and discuss, hey, you know, these are the war crimes. We're allowed to kill other people. And we're also allowed to, you know, kill some civilians, but obviously it has to make sense, you know, where it's it has to be a part of your overall strategy with war. You know, it has to be, you know, targeting other groups. You know, we don't care about the death of the people that are in the military groups, but the civilians, you got to limit that a bit. Keep the Sabbath day holy. I mean, most of us, the Sabbath day is technically Saturday, right? But whatever, that's a totally different conversation. Honor your father and mother, your mother. Yeah, right. Look at the world that we live in. And to be totally honest, that's something on both ends. Fathers and mothers need to do a good job in making sure that you're carrying yourself in an honorable way for your kids to respect you, appreciate you, and honor you. And obviously that goes both ways. You shall not murder. You shall not murder. Look at what X wrote. And X, come on, bro. You got to give a name, man. All this unknown stuff, man. This is like, you're talking too strong to not put a name on it, brother, sister. Hitler was more so Muslim, but used Christianity. It's all, yo, throw them all in the pot. It doesn't matter what religion it is. Throw them all in the same pot. Aren't you following the conversation? They're all leading us to a place where we're justifying acts of evil. Professor! Shout out to Professor in the building. People are justifying atrocious acts in the Lord's name. God is saying the 10 Commandments because he knows human nature is flawed and we need things spelled out. Notice the 10 Commandments. And I'm 100% with you. And why aren't we pushing this more? How do we have a meeting of our world leaders, and how do us as the world, how do we not actually have an issue with this? We just go along with it, or do maybe we just feel like we're not strong enough? Maybe we feel we're not strong enough. But how do we have a meeting of how we're going to kill other people, how we're going to actually properly go to war? We're going to wear our suits and everything, right? We're going to properly go to war. When God says you shall not murder, like maybe this is why we don't take this seriously. You shall not commit adultery. I'd be all right. You shall not steal. What do you mean? America was stolen. You call it conquered, stolen, whatever it is you want to call it. A lot of people think that Palestine has been stolen from the people. A lot of people think that Israel, in order to create it, it was stolen from people who had homes there. Their homes were definitely stolen. Who could say that their homes weren't stolen? I don't want to hear that, oh, well, you had it 3,000 years ago. Well, okay, so you're saying it was stolen from you and then it was stolen from the... Unc wrote, Professor wrote, don't list the egregious acts that man is doing. But if God made man, why would he have given man those stands? Why not create us in an image unto himself that we would not know murder and have to give mercy to the wicked? Yo, I'm really starting to realize that I just see God completely different than most people. We got a tough battle ahead of us. We have an extremely tough battle ahead of us, and we're going to get into this video on, I think we'll probably watch this Christian nationalism video up next, but we have a real tough battle ahead of us. If people can justify doing any and everything in the Lord's name, then why would we have to follow any rules? If you can give a kid, if you're at school, if you're in school and you have your group, you have your class, and you come in the first day and you say, hey, these are the rules. But every day you're violating the rules. Every day you're allowing the students to violate the rules. Why would they ever feel like they actually have to follow them? Like, oh my God. But we continue to fight. We continue to fight the good fight. We continue to fight the good fight. I just don't like, this is, and tell me, and X said, stop smoking crack. Sometimes I feel like I may be, honestly, at this point. I feel like I may be, because the way that I'm looking at everybody else, the way that I'm looking at what we accept throughout the world, the way that I'm looking at the things that are justified, I must be smoking crack. I must be the one bugging. It must be me. It must be me, because clearly I mean, I guess everybody else doesn't really care as much. I don't know. Maybe I'm just over here just tripping. Maybe I'm over here. Maybe I am smoking crack. Maybe I am, because I just can't understand, or maybe I'm just not an intelligent enough person to understand how we go from here to what we're actually carrying out and living in society. And like anything else, if this is the standard, right? This is supposed to be the standard. Right? Just like a football team, just like a classroom is going to be flawed, just like every kid on the team is not going to be perfect and do everything as the coach says, or do everything as the teacher says, or a kid's not going to do everything the parent says, but you still have rules in the house, right? So when your child breaks those rules, you still address them, right? When a player on the team breaks those rules, you still address them, because if you don't address them, then what do you end up? You end up with Montclair High School football, a bunch of talented kids in high school who, as soon as they go to college, can't cut it because they don't know how to follow rules. And the world teaches them very quickly that you're not the most important person in the world, that like you may have been treated like you were in high school. You can't adjust. But when you continue to get away with stuff, then what does it teach you? It teaches you like, oh, these rules, they're not real rules. These standards to live by, they're not really standards that I actually have to live by. Nobody else is living by them. How do people so passionately defend? It's like you will defend your religion more passionately than you actually encourage people to live by the standards of your religion. If somebody says something bad about your religion, you will passionately defend it. But then when somebody justifies murder and war and anything else in your Lord's name, you won't say anything. We got a couple new people in the building, Shout out to all right, Straight Path wrote, let me jump on with Muslim Lantern or Orthodox Muslim. It would be a great conversation. I think they will be able to answer all your questions. I would love to get some of these questions answered. To be totally honest, I feel like a lot of these questions that I'm asking, I think it's almost to the point where if somebody can answer these questions, the people that can answer these questions, like that's what people always tell me, oh, you just need to sit down and talk to a pastor and they'll answer the questions. No, they're going to finesse. I'm a salesperson. I know how this goes. There's no answer to the answer to these questions is it's wrong. I'm not looking for an answer to the questions. What I'm calling out is the fact that why do people continue to go that way when the religion that you so passionately defend says go that way? And why do we not call it out? Like, everybody's not going to be perfect. Okay, but why not have the standard? We don't even point to the standard. When you walked into the classroom, whether it's kindergarten, first grade, second grade, what do a lot of teachers have on the walls? These are the rules of the classroom. This is how you go to the bathroom. You have this bathroom pass. You go through the rules. So it's like me asking a teacher. So what you're saying, and I'm not saying that you're saying this exactly. Obviously, I'm just reading words. I'm just interpreting it how I'm interpreting it. But it's like if you have a teacher that has rules in their class, and the rule is to raise your hand before you go to the bathroom, and everybody violates that rule. The kids are just going to the bathroom, not raising their hand. And the teacher doesn't say anything, nothing. And then I asked the teacher, hey, teacher, if the rules are to raise your hand and then ask to go to the bathroom before you go to the bathroom, why does nobody actually have to abide by those rules? Why does everybody just, get to just go to the bathroom? There's no answer to that question. Like, it's not that she can say whatever she wants, but the point is that it's a violation to the rule. Like, what's going to be the answer to the question? Oh, well, because I'm talking and, sometimes I just let them do. Whatever answer she gives to the question does not take away from the fact that the rules are being violated. So I'm not looking for answers. What I'm looking for is for us to connect our standards with what we're carrying out in reality. When was the last time God addressed a murder rather than the state addressing them? Like I said, and 80%, shout out to 80%, Mollusk. I look at God totally different than most people. I'm realizing that. See, I don't look at God the way that a lot of people look at God, is like God is in control of all things, the all powerful, all knowing, all this. I can't. I really think, in my opinion, if I looked at God that way, then I would have a lot of resentment for God, to be totally honest. I don't think God is committing a genocide in Palestine. I don't think God committed slavery in America. I don't think God was coordinating the Arab slave trade in Africa. I think that's man, flawed man. So I don't think God addresses murder and addresses all these things. What I do think happens is eventually energy catches up to ourselves. The more radical things get, it's going to eventually explode. That's how energy is. whether we see it in politics, whether we see it in humanity, whether we see it with the flood, whatever we see it as. I don't think God is pulling the strings here. A lot of people do believe that. I think that that's lazy. I think that it's so, this is what I meant earlier. How do you give credit? Like, this is the point that I was making earlier. We give credit to God for, oh my God, my uncle or aunt or somebody in my family had cancer, and oh my God, just God got rid of the cancer for them. God got rid of the cancer for them. So God was pulling the strings in that, but when your cousin got mugged on the subway or got mugged in an alley and raped, great. Was God pulling the strings then too? Like, I don't look at it like that. I think, God created all this. Like, how selfish and lazy are we to think that now you got to control everything? Like, he created this perfect environment where every species has a purpose, where if there were no bees on the planet, then we wouldn't have, you know what I mean? Like, everything is here for a reason. Nature. And now it's like, geez, now you're going to put everything, like, is there anything that we can do, right? Ask not what, I was laughing with my big bro Pete. It's like, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask not what God can do for you. What can you do for God? How are we contributing to a more godly environment? I just don't understand it. If these don't matter, then why have them? If they don't matter, throw them out. Like, let's create some new ones, maybe. Or if they do matter, then doesn't it make sense for us to hold ourselves to that standard? Because the whole point of having rules was to avoid chaos, right? So when we start violating the rules and getting so comfortable violating the rules, then ultimately, what is that going to lead to? Chaos. Let me and let me be very clear. Like, it's balance, right? We talked earlier on the show, balance. There are a lot of positives when it comes to religion, in my opinion. But because certain standards, and there's been certain leniency with certain standards, it's caused a whole lot of chaos. So I hear certain pastors, like, we're about to watch I don't know which video we're going to go to next, but there's a video here that discusses like a conversation with a pastor and a mother. And I think that it just makes a lot of sense. Matter of fact, let's ease up with let's actually watch this video. We're going to go a little bit. But I agree with what this pastor is saying. I agree with the principles that they have. Like, so it's not like I'm sitting here saying, just throw it all out, it's not good. No, but what I'm saying is that the rules that we're actually allowing it's like, let's say, going back to the classroom example, let's say you have a teacher has 10 rules for her classroom. Let's say a teacher has 10 rules for her classroom. Some of those rules may be more detrimental if you violate them than others. I'll give you an example. If one is no fighting, you can't physically hit, other kids in the classroom, no fighting. The other one is make sure your desk is clean. I'm pretty sure we can understand that the one talking about fighting is, I'm not going to say it's more important. Well, maybe it is more important, but violating that rule is going to put us in a more dangerous environment than making sure that your desk isn't clean. the inside of your desk isn't clean, it's not organized, that your notebook wasn't, whatever. We are violating the most extreme, we are violating the commandments that cause the most extreme chaos, and we're just okay with it. We're just okay with it. Matter of fact, we have our politicians on TV like a Ted Cruz, who's not just okay with it, but he's encouraging it. Well, the Bible says that be good to Israel. Well, doesn't the Bible also say all this stuff right here? And this is why we need an update to religion or to spirituality, because we pick and choose the things that we take in context, where we give context, or the things that we take word for word. We pick and choose the things that we need to provide our own interpretation for, or the things that, nope, it says right here, be good to, oh, well, it doesn't really say be good to, but it says it. We need an update. This is outdated. And when you have outdated rules and principles, in my opinion, then what it is going to ultimately do is provide leniency in breaking those rules, in interpreting it one way or another, in looking at it when it suits your purpose to sit back and say, oh, well, this was, a different day and time. So this one, we kind of put that in this category where we loosely take that one. But this one, this one we're going to take word for word, at least for now. We may end up changing it depending on the situation that we're in. Am I tripping, or is that like, I don't know. And I know when I have a lot of these conversations, people either, I'm talking about in real life, not just here, but people tend to not like want to engage in these conversations or not really want to comment on them. I never understood how it seems like people run from the conversations that have the biggest impacts on us as humanity. I never understood that. Those are the conversations that I'm most interested in having. But these are also the conversations that most people just run from, or most people just put on the back burner. Whatever. I'd rather talk about power or Love Island or whatever goofiness. Unc wrote, just imagine if that camera never updated from the first cameras that they produced in cell phones, but the other phones did. Where would that leave you? It's Unc. It's like you can bring up so many different analogies. Like I don't understand. I don't understand. Shout out to Ant in the building. All right, let's move on to this. I want y'all to take a look at this conversation. Do I want to go here? Hold on, bear with me. I'm all over the place. I just don't know. We'll go to it. And this is a conversation. Shout out to the Poor Man's Podcast. He actually did a reaction to it. We'll check out his reaction. Let me pull that up. All right. My apologies.
Comment about verbal abuse. Calling women whores and prostitutes at the pulpit is a form of verbal abuse. I would just like to say that if you did not know.
If you had a daughter, would you rather have your daughter walk on the street half naked with her breast hanging out?
Of course not. I mean, I'm
Why
a
not?
woman.
What's up, YouTube? Poor Man Podcast back with
Because you are. He was
Amazing. From Yaden. What's going on, Abby?
Hi, Mr. Harris. How are you?
Amazing. We have Pastor Gino Jennings here.
Yes, and I heard comments that he was making a good morning, Pastor Jennings.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, now let me ask you this, if you don't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
In the Bible, God states, "Come as you are," right?
No.
So,
Can I interject?
Okay. Wait, I didn't cut you off. Wait a minute, please.
Okay.
Be little.
Yes,
show a
ma'am.
little respect, okay? Now, I'm just asking you. Do you see, like, where I'm
She
trying
asked
to
the
go?
question, so
If
he was
somebody
kind of
has a pair
supposed to
jeans
interject there,
and they
but
don't have a dress, or somebody pants is sag. Okay, for instance, an inmate might just come home from prison and when it comes to your church. They give him a brown inmate jacket. And they say, you know what, I want to get my soul saved. I know I've been living right. I want to come to Christ. If that's all that man has to wear to church, and he comes up in your church, you're going to refuse and tell him he can't come here because he's just getting out of prison? No, you accept him as he is, because you don't know who you're passing by according to what you see in your eyesight. That's judgmental, and God didn't judge anyone.
First of all, we don't turn no one away when they come to church, regardless of what they have on. And from that perspective, that's not even what I'm dealing with. That's not what I was dealing with even when I was teaching. What I'm dealing with is the way our women look today who already claim they're saved. We're not dealing with anyone who only have one piece of clothing to wear. The state of the churches today, if you go into churches, regardless of practically any church, a Christian woman and a woman that's not saved are not supposed to look the same, act the same, be the same.
exactly. And that was one of the problems that I had with church in particular. The people who were a part of church were doing the same thing. And I noticed this as a kid. I'm talking about, I was very, very religious when I was 7th, 8th grade. I've read the entire Bible. What kid do you know in 7th, 8th grade reading the entire Bible? I've read it about 3 or 4 times. I was ultra religious at one point. But then I started to notice that the people that were in the church were doing the same things as the people that were outside of the church. Then I asked myself, why are people identifying as Christian if they're not doing things or even trying to do things according to the Bible? And I learned that a lot of people identify as Christian just so they can virtue signal. And I see it happen with other religions too. A lot of people identify as Muslim, but they eating pork, they cursing all the time, and they're not conducting themselves in a way that a Muslim probably should according to the Quran. And so as I seen that as a kid, and I seen nobody taking accountability for their own actions, a lot of people would try to pray away their accountability, and people would do things throughout their lives. And instead of using the church as a way to continue to be accountable, people would try to pray away all of the things that they did wrong. And when you pray away the things that you do wrong, you don't have to take any action. So I would see all the time people doing things, and because they can just go pray and ask for forgiveness, they would never really fix themselves. And I didn't see a lot of people developing into better people. So that's when I kind of started to distance myself from that environment.
I want to add on, when he talks about accountability, that's what our entire conversation has been on. And just think about this conversation, because there's a bunch of things happening, especially going from the video that we just watched and the conversation that we just had to coming into this. Here you have the pastor, the lady calling in. She doesn't want to be held accountable. She wants to be able to dress however she wants to dress. She doesn't want any judgment. She doesn't want what we started off today on the show talking about, criticism, constructive criticism. We are not allowed to have any constructive criticism, because with criticism comes accountability, just like Poor Man said, Poor Man's podcast. I didn't want y'all thinking I'm just talking about poor people. That's the name of his podcast. There is no accountability. What is the point of having rules? What is the point of having standards to live by if you're not going to be held to them? We've been very comfortable. See, and this is why I say, it's even hard to say that religion is it's so many different. I have no issue with the 10 Commandments. I have no issue with the 10 Commandments. I think it would be very hard for most people to have an issue with it. Oh, you should honor your mother. Now, the first one, you shall have no other gods before me. Now, I could even justify that and say, there's only one God who created this. So I understand that. But me just obviously adding the context of this being a man-made religion, and me seeing how it's been manipulating people and indoctrinating people, that's when I have no problem with you shall not murder, don't commit adultery, don't steal. Okay, that doesn't sound like keep the Sabbath day holy. Cool. Honor your father and mother. Yes. But we're not actually doing these things. We're only doing them when they suit our purpose. And we're allowing people to use the Lord's name in order to commit atrocities. Nobody cares. Nobody's pissed off that we're living in America when the only reason why we're in America is because a genocide was committed. Nobody thinks about that from a day-to-day like standpoint. Oh yeah, man. Nobody's praying for these people. Nobody's doing anything for these people. It just comes across very disingenuous to me. It comes across very disingenuous to me. If we were actually having standards to follow these principles, cool, I'm with that. But it's not, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. It's being used and misinterpreted to justify violating these and us looking at it, oh, it's for the greater good. We're going to commit a genocide on these people, but it's for the greater good because they're more like savages and stuff. We're going to justify slavery because these, I mean, we can't expect these savage beasts to take care of themselves. We can't expect them. They're like children. You saw the video that we watched with the slaveholders the other day. All of these things have been used to justify violating the very standards that we say that God gave us.
In Christ, he's a new creature. Old things have passed away. So
This is myself from that environment.
if any man be in Christ, he's a new creature. Old things have passed away. So if old things have passed away, not only my character changed, but my appearance should change. Explain to me, why would any decent woman want to walk the street with her breasts hanging out? Why is it all right to do? Why would any decent woman want to walk the streets with shorts so short everything in the shorts is out the shorts?
Facts.
What is so decent about it? To have your 10-year-old daughter, your 12-year-old daughter, your 13-year-old daughter looking like a prostitute. What is so decent about it? What is so decent about the women half naked in the club and you come into church and they look the same way on the choir, on the playing the instruments, being ushers? What is so decent about it?
I've said this over and over and over. You can't tell the difference between a religious woman, a Christian woman, a college educated woman, how they used to like to brag about it. You can't tell the difference between that and a stripper. You can't tell the difference. How they behave or how they, I'm not saying that they dress like a stripper when they're going to their jobs. You can't, for those that know, you can't tell the difference in mindset, how they dress outside. You go to the club or you go to a restaurant or go to whatever, and you take a stripper with you or you take one of these other women that I just described. I guarantee you that they come dressing similar. Matter of fact, the girls, the college educated girls, they want to be lusted for like the strippers. You can't, because our culture of hip hop and everything else, and the culture that we live in America, because it's so strong, it has completely taken over, and there's no accountability amongst anything and anybody right now. So therefore, it's almost seen as an empowering thing. Show off your titties. Show your. We talked about it before, bro. This right here behind me. I don't know if y'all can see. So the pool's right here behind me. This is a family pool. We went to the pool the other day, and it was like there were like 8 women in thongs, thong bikinis, compared to 2 women in like that was halfway covering their butts. This is the world we are living. This is Sodom and Gomorrah. And we don't have to wait till we get to the most extreme aspects of Sodom and Gomorrah to identify, hey, perhaps we're moving in a direction where we need to ease up a little bit. But nobody wants accountability. People want to be able to do whatever it is that they want to do whenever they want to do it. And you know what? I don't blame them. Well, I do blame them. I do hold them accountable. But what I'm saying is, when you grow up in a society where rules are violated by everybody, where certain standards are set and you get away with them. It's like the kid that I was talking about in high school with the high school athletes. When you've been growing up as a kid, your parents have allowed you to get away with everything because you're good on the football field. Your teachers have allowed you to get away with everything because you're good on the football field. Your coaches have allowed you to get away with everything. People in town celebrate you like you're a god, like you're an idol. Of course, I hold you accountable, but it's not surprising then when you go to college and you're completely thrown off at the fact that you're not getting that same level of preferential treatment that you had growing up, and you're actually held to a standard and you can't cut it.
You mean to tell me we're living in a society that's upset with me because I'm encouraging our women to put clothes on?
Yep.
Exactly.
That's the height of ignorance.
A lot
crazy.
of women are calling in and they're mad because they're like, you're only going at, and I know you talked about this earlier, you touched it earlier. What do the men, what do you say about the men and their appearance and how they act?
Before he gets into that, I want to say that that's universal. Anytime you hold women accountable for anything, you're going to be seen as controversial. Even if you're telling women, hey, just put more clothes on if you want to be counted as Christian. It says in the Bible here to be modest. You'll get backlash as a pastor, as a spiritual leader, for telling people you should dress more appropriately before you come into the church. That's insane to me. What are you even going to church for if you're not allowing your pastor to pass judgment on you? He's supposed to be closer to the model you want to become in the future. If he's not allowed to tell you the things that you're doing right and wrong, then how are you ever going to expect to get better? That never made sense to me. So at some point, we lost that accountability in the church, or the church lost that accountability. And I think it was in somewhere in maybe the mid 2000s when the church seemed to be more about money than it was about the people in the church.
We've lost men. That's the problem. Men are supposed to establish rules, establish standards, and hold people to them. We've lost men. We've had certain male leaders who have just compromised their entire selves. We got these fathers raising these daughters to be their best friends instead of actually being their fathers. They want to be liked by their daughters. We've lost men. That's what it comes down to. That's why people don't feel that they can be held accountable. This is what a father is supposed to bring to the table. This is what a father is supposed to bring to the table. But because men in every aspect, this is why I can't stand liberals, like in the Democrats and the things that they push, because it's just so like, certain aspects of it. I can't stand certain aspects of what, I'm not doing that. Certain aspects I can't stand, like you being okay with a boy competing against a girl, you being okay with these kids transitioning into a different gender, you being okay with me going to school and I got to call your son James Jessica. We're not doing that. This is men not being men. This is corny men who never got girls in high school, who were never the cool people in high school, who realized like, oh, I can get to a position where people like me because I have insecurities. And if I just say what women want me to say, then they'll praise me. I can't, this is, I had, how personal do I want to get? Let's continue.
oh, we'll accept you if you do this, or we'll accept you if you do that, because we want your money on Sunday. We want that tithes and offering. And if we say we don't agree with your behavior, you feel more shame and you're less likely to come to the church. So we're just going to say we accept all behavior as long as you paying that tithes and offering, and you could just go ahead and pray away whatever you're doing.
I am very adamant about the men when it comes down to respecting the women. We believe that the man should respect the woman, do not verbally abuse the woman, and don't by any means beat the woman. You can't even stay in our church if you're physically beating your woman. We believe that you should be arrested and you should be locked up. If you're going to have a child by a woman, have enough decency to take care of the child.
These seem like good morals and standards to me.
They're making babies. But it's not even in them. It's like they act like it's not even in their character to take care what they have.
Right.
So a lot of these women are what? They are single mothers, and they have become mother and father. And yet these type of men, many of them, still go to church. And these type of issues are not being addressed, period. So no, we encourage our brothers, by all means, don't be out here with your pants hanging down, showing your drawers. We're living in a society where this is so norm to see grown men. Hey man, when I came up, man, our pants was up.
Facts.
Our underwear, that's why it's called underwear. They should be under your clothes.
Facts. I mean, these are all facts.
We have Kay. I know Kay, you had a couple questions.
I haven't heard
break.
anything wrong yet. I haven't heard anything.
Verbal abuse. Calling women whores and prostitutes at the pulpit is a form of verbal abuse. I would just like to say that if you did not know. But what are your female clergies? What do they think about your remarks about women?
The women, I have mixed reaction internationally. There's a lot of women that agrees that, yeah, well, he's calling a spade a spade. But you have...
Or degrading. Do women find your remarks degrading?
Oh, yes, some find it degrading.
How about you, Kay? Do you find his remarks?
It really doesn't... well...
Run that back for a second.
The women, I have mixed reaction internationally. There's a lot of women that agrees that, yeah, well, he's calling a spade. But you have...
Or degrading. Do women find your remarks degrading?
Oh, yes, some find it degrading.
How about you, Kay? Do you find his remarks...
It really doesn't... well, my opinion would be, I don't want it to, degrade you or say anything that would offend you, but I don't care what he thinks. So it doesn't matter to me.
Well, see, I respect that. She don't care what I think. But let me ask a question. Do you have a daughter?
I do not.
You don't have a daughter.
But my grandmother, may she rest in peace, is she actually led the women in ministry, Lillian Fryer Webb.
Okay. If you had a daughter, would you rather have your daughter walk on the street half naked with her breasts hanging out?
Of course not. I mean,
exactly.
Why not?
Well, then there you go.
Certain morals and values, so I know how to dress. I know when is appropriate, what not to do. But I think that if you're going to judge a woman and she's at your church and she decides to go there, and then you're criticizing her and demeaning her, that's not a form of helping someone.
Basically, I totally disagree. Criticism, there's constructive criticism.
Constructive criticism is one thing, but to criticize and demean is different.
Well, if you calling...
To demean is different. Yeah. If somebody's dressed like a whore, calling them a whore is demeaning. Okay.
An individual by what they project to be. How is that demeaning? That is not demeaning.
By how they dress? How do you know what they are on the inside?
No, basically.
Yo. Hitler did he was doing all this killing. Yeah, but how do you know what type of person he was on the inside? This woman's dressing like a whore. She's walking around the street like a whore. But let me not judge her how she's dressing, because I don't know about her insides yet. I don't know how her spirit is.
I am not.
It's always that inside.
Whore.
Let me not. This person who's walking down the street. Let me flip it for you. I'm walking down the street in a bad neighborhood, and somebody's walking towards me aggressively with a hood up and a mask on. But let me not judge them because I don't know what their insides are. Let me not judge them accordingly. Let me not walk across the street and cross the street. Let me not protect myself. Let me not be ready to engage in case something happens. Let me not do any of that. Let me just kind of just keep walking freely.
Because of the way they dress, I'm talking about it is the appearance. If I came in here, let me make it a good example.
Okay.
Again, if I came in here and rings on every finger like the bling bling preachers and had my hair processed hanging down, and this loud blood red suit and purple shoes and an apricot shirt
We would
and
judge you.
bright yellow tie, would you really believe I'm a man of God, or would you believe I'm just a straight up pimp and just went in church business to pimp?
I'm gonna think you would be
Exactly.
a pimp.
Exactly.
Let me ask you something, because we have B Expo coming up next Saturday. I hope you can come. It's $15. I mean, I think you have that money. Tickets, you can get them at rnbphilly.com. We have Albie Shore, Christopher Williams, Dougie Fresh, Roland Martin, Ernest Pugh, and we have Erica Campbell.
Okay.
Erica Campbell's on our sister station, Praise 107.9. She does mornings as well. And she's a gospel singer from Mary Mary, and she dresses like this. Do you have a problem the way Erica Campbell, a woman of the Lord, dresses?
Well, if I didn't know that she said she was a Christian, by looking at her clothes, hugging her body, I wouldn't think so.
I saw how
That's just calling a spade a
closely you were
spade.
staring at that picture as well.
I wouldn't think she's a Christian at all. If a woman is modest, she's not dressing in a manner that appears to be sexual, like she's drawing sexual attention to herself. A woman's body is sacred. The Bible speaks plain. Your body is the temple of the living God.
He talking.
And if our body, whether we are man or woman, if our body is a temple for the living God, then we should conduct our body in that manner. And when we walk in a public and people look at us, our women should not be on display. If you look at advertisement, what do they show you to get the product first? A female.
Exactly.
To buy a soda, you got a female in a bathing suit.
He's
To
spinning.
get a car,
He's
you get a
spinning.
female in a bathing suit. Our women have been displayed as looking at a sex object. So therefore, when they buy things, they think it make it look sexy. Listen, God made you to be beautiful, and you don't have to go to Walmart to buy it.
Speaking of beautiful, we have the B Expo is going down. This is just it's a lot. We have
The break.
Yo, let me be clear. And maybe this is just personalized, I don't know. I can't stand soft fathers. I can't stand punkish fathers who think they're doing a service to their daughters by being their friends, but in all actuality, you're just putting your daughter in a bad position to get pregnant early, to get sexually abused, to grow up thinking that you can dress any type of way and that the rules don't apply and that you're not going to be judged by society by how you present yourself. We can understand, oh, make sure you look presentable going to this interview. Why? Because people are going to judge you based on your appearance, but then we can't understand how that same principle applies in real life. And then what do? We grow up, because nobody says any of these things. We grow up. I've been talking about these leggings, people wearing leggings for the last 10, 15 years. Like, yo, wait, what? I know what I'm thinking when I see a girl in leggings. I know the first thing that passes through my mind. And that's what you want to wear? And what's so funny is most people will justify it. Oh, well, I'm just running their yoga. Yeah, they're yoga pants. The average black woman is 188 pounds. Don't tell me that you're going to a workout class in these yoga pants. You're not using them for working out. Stop it. Stop using that as an excuse. All of these punkish fathers have allowed these women to grow up with the type of mindset that makes them almost incompatible to have a relationship with a man that wants to have some type of decency for him and his family. This is extremely frustrating. extremely frustrating. These punk ass black fathers, I'm talking specifically to a lot of these black fathers. These punk ass black fathers make it almost impossible for us to have relationships with black women because they grow up getting everything that they ask for, not held to any standard, not held accountable in every aspect of life. They almost treat their dads like gods because they do realize that the fact that their dad was not in their life put them in uncompromising positions or compromising positions, put them in a vulnerable position, had them pregnant early, have to look at abortion like it's just no big deal. I had an abortion young. It's not a big deal. Cool. Now you grow up with a certain mindset. Your daughter's getting sexually abused at 14, 15, 16 years old. It's fucking them up for their relationship now when they move forward in life. But because it's like God, I only attribute daddy to the positive things, right? I'm only looking at the positive things that, dad bought me this. Dad gave me this. Oh, look at daddy over there. He looks so nice. But you never address the impact that daddy had and the impact that how you were raised has on you trying to have a relationship now when you're 35 years old. But nobody's going to tell y'all this, right? Nobody's going to tell y'all this. And this is why it's so frustrating. This is why I felt Nick Fuentes when he said, are there any real niggas left? This is why I felt Nick Fuentes. Because we've grown up by a generation of fathers that are punkish, that allow us to grow up with a mentality of this victimhood of everything's happening to us. It's white supremacy. It's this. Well, things are not fair. We need affirmative action and DEI to be successful. This is the punk ass man generation. These baby boomers, I'm just being honest, y'all are responsible for this. Because your dad probably, these baby boomers, their dads were much harder on them. So they wanted to just be the soft daddies, right? Now, they don't even correct the bad behavior. They'll look at how it's impacting the younger generation and they still won't address it with their daughters. They won't have a real conversation with their daughters. But I gotta say, questioning why God is good all the time. All praises, all praises, all praises. Man, I'm smiling, but if you only know how I felt inside, like this is just very frustrating. I need some more sage, Unc. I need some more sage. I need some more sage. You know why? You know why? Because I think that is very unfair to a lot of our women, to be totally honest. And I know women may not hear what I'm saying as defending them the same way when I talk about religion, people who feel like it may be coming at them. No, it's doing what Unc said. It's pointing out, it's constructively criticizing the things that are preventing us to move forward in society, in relationships, in whatever aspect. It's like, that's the area that I come to. That maybe is the sports culture that I come from. All this sugarcoating and all this other stuff. This is why I say people need to play sports. Ladies, play sports. Play sports, because you just understand certain things like nobody's sugarcoating, bro. You missed the tackle, bro. Either make the tackle on the next one or get out the game. We'll replace you. Simple as that. When you understand that concept, it shifts your entire perspective on life. Because it's bigger than just you. It's bigger than just, well, I think this is okay. No, it's bigger than just you. Perhaps this is why nobody's getting married. Perhaps this is why we're not in relationships how we were before. Perhaps this is why. Unc said, relight the sage. I should. Hold on. Let me see what else we got for today, man. It's already 9:47. I'm going to be honest, man. This is that. I just don't get it, man. I'm just going to be honest. I just don't understand a lot of this. I don't understand why. It would be different if this is why I look at most men who are 55 and over, just like I'll be totally honest. It's hard for me to find men over 55 that I even respect on certain levels, where it's just like, yo, it's like, what do you like? I appreciate, not saying that I don't appreciate, but it's just like, yo, how did y'all allow? Like, I'm 38 years old. There's a lot of things that I'm disappointed in myself about. A lot of things. I'm very critical of myself. I've always been self-critical of myself. Like, or self-critical of myself. I've always been self-critical. Not a problem. But I just don't understand how we just go through this and we have just become such a soft society where we just can't call out simple things, hold people accountable, hold standards. Like, I just don't understand it. I just don't understand it. And you know what's so funny about a lot of this stuff is, do I want to go there? I just don't understand how this baby boomer generation of men is so comfortable leaving behind the world the way they will leave it behind. I will not be okay with, like, I want to be judged based on, like, I want our generation to be judged based on the world that we leave for the next generation. I want to be judged on that. I want to be held accountable for that. But it does not seem like the generation. It seems like the baby boomer generation has just put all trust and all leadership and all guidance in the hands of either religious leaders or politicians. Like, there's no self accountability. There's no, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. Let me find this last video. I was thinking about like what video I could find that would kind of lighten up things a little bit. let me lighten it up a little bit with this video. All right, if that's possible. Yeah. Make sure y'all like real quick. Like the video.
Okay. But I want to make this is our last night. Everyone understand? Last game of the season. Aiden, eyes on me. I want to make sure you guys remember what our goals are when we step on this field. Jackson with an X. What's one of our goals when we step on this field?
To do your best stick.
Okay, not even close. Blaine with a Y. Blaine's not here. Blaine, did you get over that bloody nose you got? Okay, good. What's one of our goals when we step on this field?
We do our best and try to win.
I like the second half. Nate, you got another one? Rylan, you don't have any other goals. Aiden?
Get out.
Okay, negative Ghost Rider. All right. Did we learn anything this season?
Yes.
Our goals, no, not even close. Our goals are, listen. Our goals are to hit dingers. Everybody better have their eyes on me. Eyes on me, Rylan. Hit dingers. Disgrace the pitcher's family. Make the other players cry and stomp their butts into the ground. Does everyone understand that? Does everybody understand that?
It looks like that.
Look, fellas, look. There are two types of people in this world. There's two types of people in this world. There's winners and there's losers. And just so that we're clear, every time we step on this field, our goal is to be a winner. And if your dad has said, oh, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, just as long as you have fun, well, I hate to say it, your dad's a loser. Okay? So let's get our hands in. That team's pretty good, but we are gooder. So let's go gooder on three. Let's go gooder on three. Here we go. Hands in. Come on, talk to your English teacher here. Gooder on three. 1, 2, 3, gooder! Go.
Jack.
We need more men like that. And a lot of people may be laughing, saying like, well, he said to disgrace their family. Yeah, when competition, you go hard. And then the harder you go against somebody in competition, a lot of times, the better you become friends, I feel like, afterwards. Competition. All right. And yeah. All right. Hold on. Let me, I wanted to address what Queez and Ant said, but I already started the video. I didn't want to stop playing the video and go back to it, but let me go back to it now. So Queez wrote, society has been shaped by emotions. Was it due to the experiences of that generation? Talking about the baby boomers. I believe so, yes. And I believe Ant clarified it very well. Queez, I think it happened as a result of an overcorrection for abusive parenting. The pendulum will swing back soon until we find balance. The only way, 100% agree. We cannot find balance unless we have people that are willing to speak out about certain things. When we have societies of people, generations of people that just go along with whatever is just on the pendulum, just swinging back and forth, go over here, then they go over here. When you have people that are just riding the ride, you're never going to have balance. You're never going to have balance. People are just going along with whatever makes sense at the moment. Oh, we'll ride with this group. Oh, things need to be overcorrected too much on here. We'll go on this group. Balance is the hardest thing. That's why. And when you have balance, you know what happens why people don't choose balance? Because when you choose balance, both sides of the extremes hate you. The very people on both sides that you're fighting for, the very people that you're stepping up for because this group doesn't have representation that can help get them balanced and not as extreme. The same thing on this side, where this group doesn't have a representation that can help them get more balance and understanding so the majority of us can come together. What ends up happening is the person that's trying to push balance ends up getting hated by both sides. Balance will get you killed. It got Jesus killed. It's gotten a lot of our leaders killed. When you try to get people to a balanced society, people prefer radicals in a lot of ways, because when you have something radical over there, it makes the people radically over here, it makes them seen as more valuable. I'll give you an example. Joy Reid's show got canceled. Now, when Donald Trump was running for the election, Joy Reid was important because you had Trump, who was seen as radical over here, and then you had Joy Reid, her show. Yeah. Same with a lot of these late night shows with a lot of these liberal leaning comedians. Now we're seeing The View. We're seeing a lot of people when there's an election in progress, when people are actually caring about these, the more extreme you are, it may benefit you, right? But when there's no election, people aren't watching you. Now, maybe that I'm trying to think how I'm not sure that I properly explained that, but I think y'all still understand the point. The people who are balanced, nobody wants to see. Now, the people who are extreme, people will want to see them during different times of. Balance is always just going to bring about hatred from all the other, every group. It got me feeling, yeah. Unc wrote, and not to point out what children are pointing out is the same things that adults shape themselves with every day. It's just an opinion that no one really stands on. This is why we accept women that would walk around naked. Okay. Yeah, balance is not control, it's easier to control people with radicalism. Thank you for clarifying that, Queez. Thank you for helping me find the words, better words to explain it. Balance is not control, it's discernment as to how much of something is needed and allowing the amount of discipline given the situation. It's much harder than an on and off switch. 100%. All right, so we are on the same page. And it's to the point, you know what's so wild? When you present balance in a lot of situations, the radicals on each side, they'll make the balance, they'll try to portray that as being radical. They'll both gang up on you now, because they know that balanced approach, that's gonna now you're threatening taking away my people over here. You're taking away threatening my people over here. So nah. We need this thing separated. All right, let's wrap this up. Hold on, let me get my sage. For these last for our 45 seconds. Matter of fact, we taking 60 seconds today. Hold on. All right, we're gonna do 60 seconds today. 60 seconds. Give yourself whatever it is that you need. I don't have much direction today. Maybe just think about how your life can become a little bit more balanced, but give yourself whatever that means for you. That means for you. I should have opened the door before I did this, but I'll open it right after. 60 seconds, man. Give yourself whatever you need. Give yourself whatever you need for 60 seconds. Oh yeah, what? Hold on. Hold on, Ant. What was all the sage comments about? Apparently that's connected to like witchcraft and stuff. I'm not familiar. I'm totally ignorant from that standpoint. What's the connection between sage and witchcraft? And then let me ask you this: what's wrong with witchcraft? I mean, you know what they used to call witchcraft, just like they had to make voodoo act like it was witchcraft and voodoo, and in all actuality, those were some of the spiritual practices that a lot of us were following, but they tried to. So be careful, Ant. Be careful with your answer. Be careful with your answer. let's start our 60 seconds. I mean, I was waiting for Ant to tell me what about the sage. Sage is not biblical from a Christian perspective, but to each their own. What? Hold up. What? Neither is killing people and going to war, but they justify that. So I'm gonna rock out with the sage if that's cool. 60 seconds. Let's begin now. Whoa, I think I went a little bit too long. I think so. All right. It says, Ann is explaining it on a simple level. Nothing is needed to clean spirits outside of one's own connection to God. Certain forms of witchcraft actually invite spirits such as sage. It would be in Christianity's best interest to call witchcraft or to call sage or whatever. I mean, this is the Democrats calling the Republicans evil and the Republicans. Man, you done messed up my whole sage. I'm gonna look into that. Look, y'all know what we come here to do: elevate on purpose, both from an intentional standpoint, raising our standards to become the best leaders we can become that are needed now more than ever, and raising our standards to grow into the people we need to become in order to accomplish these audacious, amazing, great goals that we set for ourselves, strengthen on our onward and upward, get to that bag. For those that don't know what I mean when I say get to the bag, all the things that we're doing along the way on a daily basis, hourly basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, yearly basis that are going to accumulate into what is going to ultimately be our impact on the world that we like to call our personal legend. All right. We want to make sure that we're aligned with the proper trajectory to live in our purpose as we strive for purposeful abundance. What's in your bag, you got to decide what's in your bag. We talked earlier about base it on your goals. What are your goals? Once you figure out what your goals are, then figure out what it's going to take to get there, then make the decision of whether or not you're going to commit to them. So the things that are in my bag that I like to focus on: peace, love, happiness, health, wealth, and in everything we do, integrity. And what I'm putting above all of that is balance. All right, balance. So shout out to everybody. Amp said, have a good week, good people. Quee said, balance. Unc said, one love to all. Maybe I'll get some understanding in our lives, compassion for the next person. Wisdom and understanding is something that we all need to work on every day. That is a fact. And clapping. Unc said, and of course we end with Quee's leaving the emojis. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. I appreciate y'all giving me the grace to even engage in a lot of these conversations that are super heavy. I really do mean that. Trust and believe. I'm only looking for understanding and clarity of how we can get to a more harmonized world for humanity to live in. That's my only goal. I'm passionate about this. I always have wanted people to get along. I've always been very blessed to be around all different types of people and just don't understand how we can't just get along. So let's, and it's not just about getting along. It's about thriving together. I don't want to set it as like, oh, we're just getting along. Let's thrive. We're at our best when we're thriving with each other, appreciating each other, and we're not allowing our insecurities to create fear and for us to get manipulated into disliking each other with this whole divide and conquer tactics. Enjoy your 40-hour work week. Enjoy your 40-hour work week. So shall I? 40 hours, yikes. Yo, y'all are crazy, man. Hey, all right, Rodney King. Can we all just get along? Yo, I love y'all. Appreciate y'all, man. I'll see y'all on the next one Wednesday night.